Welcome back, and thank you for joining me on the How platform. This is the How platform where we share lessons around faith, lifestyle, and purposeful living. So in the past video, I've been talking about principles that guide a successful life, starting with clarity and then going on to talk about courage and consistency. And then in the last video, we shared the lessons around calmness. And if you've not seen any of those videos, feel free to check our channel. So calmness is not idleness. Calmness is not laziness. Calmness is not inaction. Calmness is a break to look inward, to find your own voice, to find your own courage, to find your own strength, and find your own purpose and pursue it diligently. Calmness is a strategy. That was the conclusion from the last video. So you take calmness is like a break, but how do you come out of that break? That is the place of commitment. Commitment is the kickstart to your goal. Commitment is the kick that triggers the next action. Without commitment, you're not going to stay consistent. Without commitment, you're not going to leverage the courage that you are able to find within you. Commitment builds on the foundation of clarity, because when you're clear on what you want to do and you are clear about your goal and what it will lead into, then you will find the inner strength, the inner courage, the inner promise to yourself to pursue that goal. Because commitment is a promise to yourself. That is the difference between commitment and loyalty. Loyalty is the promise that you make to somebody else, but commitment is the loyalty that you make to yourself, the loyalty that you make to your dream, the loyalty that you make to your own purpose, the loyalty that you make to making sure that the dream that you have doesn't just live in your head, but it becomes your reality. And a good example that jumps into my mind about commitment is God. But before we jump into that Genesis 1 and 2 and talk about God, let me first think around what is commitment. Commitment is a very strong word. I checked the dictionary to find the definition of commitment, and it's about the quality of keeping the promise that you make to yourself. The quality of staying still and staying there and asking questions and putting the action and putting the effort and making sure that you do the hard work and making sure that you put in the passion, because your commitment is how you signal to others your passion. Your commitment is how you show your own interest. Your commitment is how you display your values. Your commitment is how you remain consistent. So commitment builds on clarity, and the interaction of commitment with consistency is what leads to a successful life. So in this video, I want to share my lessons around commitment. And in Genesis 1, we saw God. Everything that was needed for human to live was created. Human needed to eat. Human needed to live in a house. Human needed to have some comfort even in their life, and everything that was needed for human was created before human was introduced to the picture. And after human was introduced to the picture, in Genesis 2 and 3, we saw that God didn't give up. Every day He will come back. He will check on them. Commitment doesn't give up. Commitment shows up. Commitment asks questions. Commitment follows up. Commitment stays there. Commitment pours in all the energy. Commitment doesn't give up. Commitment understand what they have. Commitment understand what is needed. Commitment understand the help that they need to leverage. In Genesis 2 and 3, we saw how God was committed to human. Even after human sinned and Adam and Eve sinned, God didn't give up. He has the question, who told you? Who told you? And after they were sent out of the garden, we saw that the great one didn't give up on them. He continued to make provision so that human can come back to him. Our God is a committed God. In the video today, there are several areas that we could pitch the lessons around commitment. Because commitment to God is first. And then that follows commitment to yourself. Commitment to yourself is followed by commitment to the relationships in your life. And then the commitment in the relationship in your life precedes the commitment to your community. So in this video, I'm going to focus on a commitment to your own self. Because when you are committed to your own self, it is easier to be committed to other people's dream. When you find people that are not committed, check them very, very well. They are not committed in their own life. They are not committed to their own goals. They are not committed to their own purpose. Most of their dreams are still living in their head. They are not committed to anything. Why would you be expecting commitment from somebody? Or why would you be expecting loyalty from somebody who is not committed to their own self? Before I jump into the lesson, I just want to share a very, very personal story. And this story that I shared, that I'm sharing now, is a story that whenever I think about it, I melt in tears. Because it's a story of a woman that was helped by God and human. I can't tell my story without talking about the role that other people played in my life. So sometimes we were doing well. We were doing well, but I wanted something better. I knew I was made for more. I had been working before relocating to the United States, and I wanted to proceed in my career. I wanted to go back to school. I was a mom with 2 kids. How would a mom with 2 kids go back to school? Is either I pursue a nursing career or an healthcare related career, or I continue to build on my skills in economics. So I chose the second path, which means going back to grad school would require me to write some exams. I remember in that year that I decided to write the GRE exam, which is a required exam for any grad school, I was afraid because I knew that exam was a tough exam. And every day I would wake up, drop my older kid at a daycare, and drop my younger kid at a home daycare. Every day I drive for about 45 minutes, drop my older kid at a school, and drop my younger kid at the nanny's place, and then check into the library close to the nanny's place. And some days I get to the library is not opened, and I would just sit in my car and study. I studied. Because when you want to pass, you don't just pray. You study like you don't want to fail, and you pray like failure is not an option. And during that period, it got to a point that even in my dream, I will be dreaming of myself writing the exam. And I'm thankful. The daily sacrifice, the daily diligence, the daily hard work paid off. I passed the exam. That's not the end of the story. That was the first part of my commitment. In January, I remember it was very in the middle of winter. I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd baby on a Friday. I remembered very, very well because it was in the middle of some intermittent fasting. On a Friday, I found out I was pregnant, and the following Monday, I got an admission into the University of Houston. Cook's house. I was so excited. I did not only get an admission to the course of my dream, I wanted to pursue a PhD in economics. I also got a full funding, which means I'm not going to be paying any tuition, and I'm going to be getting some stipend from the school. That is a commitment that was invested in me because of the commitment that I made towards my dream. I remember the dilemma I had to face because now I have the admission that I had so much desired with the full funding that I had so much prayed for, and I'm pregnant. And my spouse asked me, what are you going to do, Yewande? I said, we're going. By we, I mean my spirit, soul, and body, including the baby in my womb. We're going. And on August 20, I remembered I showed up at the Mark Ellinin building of the University of Houston with a 7-month-old pregnancy. When the faculty saw me and they saw my commitment, they have to help this woman. She's determined and she's committed. They decided that you don't have to come to class. If you need to take a break, Yewande, please take a break. And I'm talking about the Department of Economics. The faculty decided that if I don't come to class, they were going to give me B's in all my classes so that as an international student, I continue to stay current with my international status. I was so grateful because when you step on water with faith, ground meets your feet. When you decide to step out in commitment, help will come from you. Because your commitment is how you signal to people your investment in your own dream. Your commitment is how you signal to people the passion to pursue your dream. Your commitment is how you signal to people your hard work and your diligence and your discipline to your own dream. In that year, I received help. I had my baby in the middle of the semester. I received help from the women that I call my Shiro. They took care of me. They took care of my baby. My commitment attracted the help of God and the help of men. Where am I going with commitment? In this lesson today, I just want to start with the commitment to yourself. Because when you are committed to yourself, you'll be committed to the time. You'll be committed not only to the time, you'll be committed to the routine. In that story that I told you, there was a routine. I had to wake up every morning, go to the library. I have to wake up every morning, go to the library. I had a routine. Because within that routine is where you find your consistency. I had to pour all in. You have to pour all in. And your commitment to yourself is the investment that you make to yourself. And the commitment to others is your loyalty to others. In that Genesis 1, we saw God, he continued to show up for human. He didn't give up. He continued to pour himself into human because your commitment tells me your passion. Your commitment tells me your value. Your commitment tells me how you spend your time. In your commitment, you are innovative. In your commitment, you have new ideas. Because your commitment is the discernment that recognizes your purpose. Your commitment is that inner energy, the inner trigger that wakes you up from your calmness and kicks off your consistency. Your commitment is what wakes you up from your calmness and kick off your consistency. Because there is a time element to commitment. Commitment is the discipline to pursue a goal. Commitment is the diligence to pursue that goal. Commitment is the consistency that you put in achieving your goal. Commitment is the discipline to continue even when the result doesn't look good yet. Commitment is the discipline to continue when the process still looks unclear. Commitment is the diligence to follow the routine. A story that comes to my mind around commitment to yourself. Like I said, this video that I'm sharing today is about commitment to yourself. A story that comes to my mind around commitment to yourself was the story in 2 Kings 4. That widow. The woman is a widow. She doesn't have a partner to help her. She stood up by herself. She looked at her situation. Her husband had served. But now, the people whom her husband were hoeing had come, and they were going to take her 2 boys away. The woman looked around. There was no help from any other place than to go back to where her husband had served, to leverage the past investment of her husband. She went to Elisha and she said, my husband served faithfully. My husband was committed. And the commitment of my husband should bring me some value. And the woman asked Elisha, help me. Elisha said, what can I do for you? What do you have in your house? The woman said, I don't have anything. Maybe that is what you're saying now. I don't have money to go back to school. I don't have the energy to go back to school. I don't have the motivation to go back to school. Every dream looks big until you look at what you have. Stop looking at what you don't have. Look at what you have. Every dream looks big until you focus on what you have. This woman said, I don't have anything but a jar of oil. And the man said, okay, since that's the jar of oil, go ahead and borrow a lot of vessel. She borrowed a lot of vessel. And the woman and the man of God said, this is your next action. You're going to start pouring the little jar of oil into all the vessel. You start pouring it all in. You start pouring it all in. And the woman got to her house, all the jars of oil sitting down on the floor, and she was pouring the oil. From the jar of oil, she was pouring. And at some point, she called her son, bring me more vessel. And the son said, there's no more vessel. And at the point where she said, there is no more vessel, the oil stopped coming. You ask yourself, how is this related to commitment? Commitment shows up. You have to show up for your own dream. Nobody else will show up for your own dream. The dream that is living in your head, you can share it with your ministry. You can share it with your organization. You can share that business idea with your organization. You can share that business idea with your community. But the only person who is going to birth that idea or that vision or that goal is you. Commitment shows up. That woman showed up. She showed up for herself. She showed up for her family. Commitment understands pain and suffering. She was a widow. She understands the pain of not having anything to feed her 2 boys with. She understands the pain of not having her 2 boys under her roof because the debtors were coming. She understood the pain of being single-minded. She showed up for herself. Commitment asks questions. When this woman showed up for herself, she asked the man of God, what can you do for me? You have to ask yourself questions. There are questions that you are not going to be able, that nobody will ask you except yourself. And like I said in this video, we're focusing on commitment to yourself. In a couple of videos, we'll be talking about commitment to others, commitment to your God. But in this video, it is about you. Commitment to yourself means you're going to ask yourself some hard questions. And in the next videos, some videos later, we're going to talk about the act of asking questions. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell, because this conversation is just getting started and each lesson builds on the other. This woman was not afraid to ask questions. She asked herself questions and she asked the man of God, Elisha, question. What can you do for me? Commitment closes the door. Don't expect people to put in the hard work that you are not ready to put in yet, because your commitment is how you signal your passion in your own dream. The woman shut the door. She locked herself in and she poured all the oil. She kept on pouring the jar of oil. Commitment pours in all the work. Commitment pours in all the work. When you're tired, you pour in all the work. When you don't have the energy, you pour in all the work. When the dream is not materializing, you pour in all the work. When it doesn't look like you have anybody cheering you up, you pour in all the work, because commitment puts in the hard work. So we saw that this woman showed up. This woman asked questions. This woman pours in all the work. This woman locked up herself. In your own individual, you're going to find your inner courage. In your own individual, you're going to find the commitment to what matters to you. That is what this woman shared with us in this story that I'm sharing with you today from 2 Kings 4. The woman didn't just expect somebody else to come and give in all the work. She poured in all the work. Commitment pour in all the hard work, because the element of commitment includes diligence. The element of commitment includes discipline. The element of commitment includes hard work. You have to first of all sit down. Like I said, clarity is the foundation of commitment. You want to first of all understand what you need. Because in this lesson in 2 Kings 4, this woman doesn't just talk about what she wants. She knew what she needs. She knew what she needs. Commitment, understand what is needed. Commitment, understand the people that are needed. Commitment, ask the difficult questions. Commitment, pours in all the work. And commitment stays there. Commitment stays there. Commitment stays there. To yourself, you want to stay there. Look into the mirror. How much can you invest into your own self? Before you start talking about the investment into the relationship, into your marriage, into your community, into your church, into commitment stays there. We saw that God stays there. That is why we call him faithful. Because the bowl of commitment is a soup. It is a mixture of diligence. Diligence that interacts with discipline. Discipline that interacts with hard work. And hard work that follows a different level of routine. A different level of routine that builds in consistency. And out of the consistency and continuity produced in pain and suffering, a commitment is made. Thank you for joining me on the App platform. This is the App platform.